is, I didn't know how to describe, because I'm like, he got a beard, but then he got hair, but then he tatted from head to toe.
That part.
But then he also can move his body like a woman and do the gender non-conforming clothing. But then he also brags about slamming that ass down on dick. But then he look like he'll beat your ass. So it is
will. You just look. That should be the new pronoun then. Bad bitch. We have to. I'm gonna submit that to the LGBT headquarters. We have a new gender category called bad bitch, baby. Okay. You know what's so funny is I've never thought about my gender. Like I'm born male. Obviously, I am male, and I identify as man. My gender expression has been very ambiguous because, as you just stated, I mean, obviously, I incorporate things that are considered to be feminine into my aesthetic. But what's funny is that when I was growing up, like I grew up around a lot of diversity, and I come from a very multiracial, multicultural family. So we have Asians, Europeans, all of that in my family, which is why I probably look sometimes very racially ambiguous myself. And going to school with like white boys who were into punk rock and heavy metal, and the goth kids and the spike hair and the long hair, and the Asian boys and they swoops, I always saw men being able, like other ethnicities of men, just carry. And it was never really a conversation or a context around the way they wore their hair as it relates to gender. So when I was growing up around all that creativity, for me, having my hair long, coloring my hair, swoops, bangs, even makeup, because being around the heavy metal kids, there's something called like glam rock within that kind of like rock and roll space. So a lot of the biological white boys also wore eyeliner. They painted their fingernail. I mean, it wasn't about being gay. It wasn't about being girl. It was just about being creative, and it was about being stylized and unique and just an individual. So living in this age, that is largely about titles and categories. I don't mind the term non-binary. Most of the terminology used to describe me has been androgynous, which can fall within the non-binary thing because it's ultimately like non-gender conforming. So if that's what fits is non-binary, then I guess I'm non-binary. But I don't abandon my masculine energy, and I totally embrace my feminine energy. So I'm just comfortable in both. And women have been a very powerful contribution to my life and have been my protectors and nurturers. So it's hard for me to feel ashamed as a man to have feminine qualities, because anything in me that looks like my grandma, or looks like my mother, or look like my aunts, or look like some of the most extraordinary females in my life, I have no choice but to be proud of. I couldn't be ashamed of any of those feminine qualities when they came and might have been inspired by somewhat in some way. You know, the feminine that's externalized to me. So to reject my femininity would be to reject females and women, period. And I think that women are equal. I think they are supposed to be a part of this round table of creation, and I just don't have no shame about that. I was taught to have shame about that growing up Black, you know, and you know more than I. Or as a Black male in the Black community, you can only be one way, and you can only ultimately be masculine. And anything that's not chest beating, King Kong consciousness is gay as hell, or it's weak, it's soft, it disquantifies your masculinity. But I just resisted all that. I didn't give a fuck.
I love that. And you know, it's a lot of things that I didn't give a fuck about in my youth, but I wish that would have been one that I wish I would have reached that point earlier. Because being a Black man, you don't have to be a certain way. Like we're not a monolith. Like if we want to ask white people, Asian people, Latin people to not stereotype us, we first got to stop stereotyping ourselves.
Sure.
And that's just what it is. So
But do
Let
you know
me.
what I'm most shocked at when it
Uh-huh.
comes to the resistance? I'm most surprised at women because when women are queerphobic or transphobic or homophobic, I'm just like, but in women's space, y'all get to exist in all these unique alternative ways, but will actively strip that from black men. Will actively keep black men in a box. While you want there to be a Aaliyah in her Tommy Hilfiger boxers and baggy jeans to exist. While you want a Debrat who is a lesbian woman who presents masculine to exist in the world, while you want Eve to be able to be a rough rider and to be bald headed and all and to run with the boys and be tomboys, you want and allow and permit all of this diversity in women's community, but we'll get to black men and reduce us to thuggery and reduce us to this dense, not even just like a quality masculinity, but a dense version of masculinity at all. I expect men to be stupid and homophobic and transphobic and resistant and to internalize patriarchy. But when women do it, I'm just like, really?
Mm. Let me ask you this, because the women would say, well, you as a man shouldn't even be worried about what we're doing as women anyway. Don't compare yourselves to us. What would be your response to that?
I want to know, where is the data that anyone is worried? Because I don't know what I'm worried about per se. Um, I don't know what that means. Like, what does that mean?
I
Like,
think I
worry about?
think from what I've heard women say, and not you getting this second, third hand, but what I've heard women say is um women should be able to do things that are the things that women are allowed to do socially. You as a man shouldn't want to do it anyway. Like, don't compare yourself to me. Why are you even worried about the fact that we can be diverse? You be a man, you just be a man. But then we still have to ask ourselves, what does being a man really mean?
Nope. Nobody can really tell you because man and woman are social constructs. Now, male and female are the biology. That's the science. That's the fact of all of our lives. With the exception of intersex people who change the whole game up as a result of their reality. But man and woman, it's a social construct, and that's why none of us can fucking define it. That's why when the whole drama between Jess Hilarious and TS and the TikToker happened around womanhood and women not being able to gatekeep that. As a man, I can't gatekeep manhood either, because me and you had two different manhoods. You as a cishead man growing up in...
Well, they're gonna be mad at you for saying cis.
Right. See, I was telling this to my audience the other day. I'm just like, like, I can have that fluid conversation with a man without all the extra backlash. But when it comes to women, everything is a lot.
Can
Everything
you
is a
explain
lot.
what cisgender means? I don't mean to cut you off, but can
Yes.
you explain what that means?
So cisgender just is a prefix, and it simply means the same. So in the context of gender and sex, what you are saying as a cisgendered person is, I'm either born male or female, and I identify as man and or woman. Because now we're living right in this society where we have a blended community, and if you just go out into the public and say I'm a woman, that doesn't mean you're not a trans woman. What type of woman are you? So really what you're saying is, as a cisgender person, it's your way of saying I'm not trans. Essentially, you identifying as a cisgender man is your way of saying I'm not a transgendered man. It's just a way for biological male and females to distinguish themselves from trans persons, which the LGBT community thought would be something the heterosexual biological community would be happy about.
Yeah, they mad. They mad, baby.
Right, like in this whole conversation about wanting to protect space and everybody need their space, and I'm just like, well, here it is. You have verbiage that helps you to tell another motherfucker, I'm not that, and yet you feel insulted to be called cisgender, but you don't feel insulted to be called a Homo sapien. What's the difference between these scientific terminologies that are frequent in these educated academic based sectors and these other scientific terms that you don't push up against.
Because it is an actual scientific term, correct?
Yes, these are scientific terms that you will find in conversations and institutions around the education of sexuality and gender. So no, this is not like common language that you hear amongst common everyday folk, but in these academic spaces, this terminology has been around for ages, and it's used by professors, used by scholars, used by authors, used by researchers, used by sexologists, used by people who actually do this shit.
It's a storm show. Ay, it's a storm show.